Shaheen and members of the subcommittee, there is no question that today's threats are more sophisticated and move more quickly than ever before. And to stay ahead of them, we've requested important enhancements to our budget that will help us tackle the wide range of threats that we face, and I look forward to discussing those with you this afternoon. Let me start with cyber. Today's cyber threats are more pervasive, hit a wider variety of victims, and carry the potential for greater damage than ever before. You take China, a key part of the Chinese government's multi-pronged strategy to lie, cheat, and steal their way to surpassing us as the global superpower is cyber. The scale of the Chinese cyber threat is unparalleled. They've got a bigger hacking program than that of every other major nation combined, and they have stolen more of Americans' personal and corporate data than every nation, big or small, combined. To give you a sense of what we're up against, if every single one of the FBI's cyber agents and intelligence analysts focused exclusively on the China threat, nothing but China, Chinese hackers would still outnumber FBI cyber personnel by at least 50 to 1. And of course, China's hardly the only challenge in cyberspace, not even close. We're, as we speak, investigating over 100 different ransomware variants, each of them with scores of victims, as well as a host of other novel threats posed by both cyber criminals and nation-state actors alike, in addition to China, countries like Russia, Iran, and North Korea. And it's getting more and more challenging to discern where nation-state threat activity ends and cyber criminal threat activity begins. Recently, we've seen cyber attacks targeting the critical infrastructure and services that ordinary Americans rely on every day. I'm talking about places like hospitals, schools, 911 call centers. And the FBI has investigations into destructive attacks like these all over the country in communities both large and small, which is why in this year's budget request, you will see our need for 192 more cyber positions and a little over $63 million. We will put those critical resources towards ensuring that the FBI remains the world's premier cyber investigative agency by taking the fight to our adversaries through joint sequenced operations and rapid information sharing with the private sector, by building out our model cyber squads, each tackling multiple threats in more field offices, placing investigators, analysts, and other key professionals close to the victims that need us, and by providing our workforce with critical cutting-edge training. Our opponents in this space are relentless, and we need your help to ensure that we've got the resources to keep responding in kind. Switching gears, almost every week, I am speaking with chiefs and sheriffs from all over this country to discuss the threats that we're fighting together, and I can tell you that in those conversations, invariably, the number one issue is always the same: violent crime. Last year, working with our state and local partners through our hundreds of FBI-led violent crime task forces, we arrested more than 20,000 violent criminals. That's an average of 55 bad guys per day, every day, taken off the streets. As part of our FY24 budget, we're requesting an increase to build on our efforts to combat the rising violent crime that affects so many communities all across this country. And a big part of that will also go towards our investigations of crimes against children and human trafficking. Every year, the FBI and our partners identify and locate thousands of victims of child exploitation and human trafficking, and the enhancement that we've requested will allow us to add even more personnel to that vital effort. And finally, I've described the threat of gangs and cartels moving fentanyl and other deadly substances across the border and into communities all over the country as a threat of epidemic proportion. And I'm not the kind of guy that uses words like epidemic lightly. We're now pursuing investigations against transnational organized criminal groups in all 56 FBI field offices and have more than 300, it's close to 400 now, active investigations into cartel leadership specifically. On top of that, we're leveraging international partnerships through our legal attaché offices to enhance investigations and gather and share intelligence, and we're actively participating in 6 OCDETF strike forces along the border. And although we at the FBI are not the agency tasked with the physical security of our borders, we are committed to doing our part to work with our partners to tackle these very real and very serious threats. As part of that effort, we've asked for $53 million, in part to keep pace with the 7-fold increase in DNA samples from individuals crossing the border that we're testing on behalf of DHS. Over the past couple of years, we've provided critical DNA testing support to 223 investigations, including more than 100 sexual assaults and a dozen homicides, all based on matches from DNA samples collected at the border by Customs and Border Protection. And we expect that volume to increase as border crossings increase, and we need your support to continue to process these samples, which so often provide the missing piece of the puzzle to solve serious violent crimes that might otherwise go unsolved if we're not able to process those border crossing DNA samples. So in that summary, I've really barely scratched the surface. The breadth and depth of the threats the American people look to us to protect them from is staggering. And I am proud to be here today representing the 38,000 men and women of the FBI who work tirelessly and selflessly to meet that challenge every single day. And I want to thank you for your support of our men and women in helping us carry out that mission, and I'm happy to answer any questions.